And this week in the second part of our Kluger video, we've got the GX
3.5 litre V6 non-hybrid.
8-speed automatic. The main differences between this car and the other car, I mean the colours are similar, everything's similar, wheels and all of that sort of stuff, but the main difference is under the bonnet. Now under the bonnet,
so what we saw with the hybrid as well is that the engine and the powertrain generally sits low, or appears very low. It's not over cluttered, and obviously it doesn't have that hybrid component.
and you can see the petrol component is much bigger because it's got 2 extra cylinders.
Well, one of the things you immediately notice is that it is quieter, and I suspect and feel it's a little smoother. The quietness I would put down to probably the CVT gearbox in the hybrid, which, as we've said often, I don't like. This doesn't have the almost grinding noise, which wasn't over obtrusive, yet it was enough to be noticeable. The other thing is, it is a bigger petrol engine. Now the hybrid should give it power, but this roars more, doesn't it? It certainly sounds more of a performance car. Oh, I've got a gentleman walking down the middle of the road. Unbelievable. A little bit of lane departure warning there. The set-out is very much the same. This has the smaller dial in front of it, being the GX model, the smaller multi-functional information system, mainly about how you are operating the car, speedo, fuel consumption, and so on. Actually, it drives almost a little bit like it feels its weight. When you give it a bit of acceleration, it does seem to give that, well, we've got to make a bit of an effort, but it does that in a quieter mode than perhaps we might remember from the hybrid vehicle. I've noticed a lot more people out walking, or in this gentleman's case, exercising rather strongly. Obviously, since COVID, we are looking at doing things more locally, including getting out of the house, which in itself is not a bad thing. It would have been much more preferable, of course, to do that without having to have a pandemic.
I've got my COVID hair under control. I think David's right, this feels so much lighter and nippier than the hybrid. It's not to say the hybrid's bad, the hybrid is very good. More frugal than this. And what's made this slightly more frugal than it otherwise would be is the fact that it's got an 8-speed automatic. And the 8-speed automatic is divine. It is beautifully smooth. Used elsewhere, of course, in Toyota products and Lexus too. It tries to get to the top in normal driving mode as quickly as possible so that it can give you the best possible fuel consumption, but it doesn't get to the top gears until you're on the highway. This is so smooth and quiet. The steering feels every bit as light as the hybrid model. There is a little more vibration because it's a petrol engine, even though this is an incredibly smooth engine. There's more vibration than the hybrid when it's in EV only mode, obviously. But it does go to show just how much vibration comes from the engine, regardless of how much time and effort engineers put into balancing it to make it so smooth. Cabin, deliciously quiet, and the ride, like its hybrid sister, is very nice. It's so smooth. One thing I will say about this V6, it may have been around for a long time, but improvements over the years have meant that it's going to be a little bit more engaging than it once was. Remember, this used to have a 6-speed automatic, and in fact it's been around so long it's probably had a 4-speed automatic at some stage. While we're stopped, let's talk about some of the other things that are in the car. Like the hybrid, there's plenty of USB points. There's a couple in the back at floor level, same as the hybrid, 3 in the front, same as the hybrid. Of those, only 1 connects to the Apple CarPlay system. It's nice that Toyota now actually has Apple CarPlay. It's finally come into the 21st century. And because Toyota is such a large company, they can afford to amortize many of their costs. By that I mean the radio system goes into more than just one car. And at lights, this thing is quite sprightly. A Golf R decided to drag me off at the lights. You did hear a little bit of a wheel spin there when I took off, and I wasn't being enthusiastic at all. I'd hate to think what happened if I would have taken my foot right to the floor. But if you don't want to bury a loafer in the Axminster, this is a very relaxed and, dare I say it, luxurious ride. It feels very limo-esque. That was a fairly sharp corner. This thing took it in its stride. Now the ride in this is courtesy of the multi-link suspension and Macpherson Struts. Toyota claim it gives it good handling, but this is a 7-seater SUV. You're really not going to require it to be a great handler. What you're going to need is lots of space, smooth ride. The ride over this not very good bitumen is sensational. Obviously it would be a lot better with 7 people on board, but remember, like with all 7-seaters, 7 seats does not mean 7 adults. The third row really is for smaller people only. It still has climate outlets, so vents for air conditioning and so forth, but to be honest with you, you're not really going to want to spend a whole lot of time back there. Space is at a premium, as we showed in the previous video. But if you just want a full V6 car, plenty of get up and go, rather nice sounding engine if it comes to that, plenty of space, and an interior finish that is actually really good. This is 50 grand's worth on the road-ish. I think that's extraordinary value. And that's all this week for the Toyota GX V6 manual, a completely different car from its hybrid sibling.
In the feel of when you're driving it, not from the outside notice.
Feels like a spring lamb, David, hopping along. I'm going to tell that one, I am sober. But as always, if you've liked the film, hit like.
Make a comment.
But above all, just over there, because there's plenty of room, to subscribe.